Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Good morning, everybody. It's Sarah and Steve, the Sarah and Steve Show, and we're coming to you live this morning. And we're doing a Friday today because just with our schedule worked out that way. I think we'll probably fine tune that and see what time slot fits best for us moving forward. But the next month or so is a little bit busy for both of us, so. I think we have a good show today. What are we going to talk about, Sarah?
Okay, well, first we're going to have Gabby come on. She is the founder of Youth for Liberty.
That's right. She is a Cuban immigrant. She's been here a few years. I believe she recently married here, and she has been an activist for legal immigration and anti-communism, and she's here. She's going to talk about what it means to be an American coming from that kind of environment, which I think is important for all of us to hear. She has some really good perspectives on that. I think we both know her and have heard her before, and her story is very compelling. We could take several hours probably talking about her history and how she came here, her family, her life there. But we're going to ask her to just maybe give a little history about that, but also talk about what she's doing now with her Youth for Liberty program. And what else, Sarah's on our agenda today?
All right. Well, there's a lot going on in South Salt Lake. So
For sure.
We're going to talk about that a little bit. Steve also has a story that I am dying to hear.
I often don't tell that story. Sarah's going to pull a little bit of it out of me, not all of it today, but we could do a much larger story at another time on that. So, but we don't want to waste Gabby's time. So I think that it would be appropriate, Dwayne, if we brought her in right now. I think we have her on the line. We got her there, Dwayne? Hello, sir. Mr. Oz. Sorry, the technical problems. I'm not sure if we lost her. Gabby, if you can hear this, re-click your link. Dwayne, can you hear us, please? Are you there?
Well, we could talk about the South Salt Lake real quick.
That's not a real quick thing, but okay. Let's talk about it. We'll figure the thing out with Gabby. Dwayne, I don't know, maybe he's on mute or something, but Sarah, why don't you tell us about what's been going on like recently with South Salt Lake and businesses and residents, that kind of thing.
Taxes, and more taxes.
Wow. So aside from, they raised the property taxes recently, didn't they?
Yeah, that's been raised. And then this
How much
new
did they
thing,
raise it?
I can't remember, but it's been twice in the past couple years, and they're talking about a third time.
Wow.
So this one is the transportation tax. And what I hear, I haven't looked into this part yet, but it's the legislature that approved this.
The state legislature?
Yes,
Okay.
that allows municipalities to start taxing a transportation utility fee.
Wow.
To fix the roads.
So who are they going to tax exactly, and what?
That is up to the city. So Mill Creek, just right next door, they are having all of the residents and businesses pay.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's it based on? Is it based on
that's
annual
up to the
income,
city.
or
It's up to the city.
So they don't know for sure right now what what the basis
Um,
of it is?
I know what the South Salt Lake one is.
Oh, yeah.
So they have different categories, like the commercial or office or retail, like a few different categories
hmm
of what the business is. And they are charging by 1,000 square footage.
A building size?
Yes.
That doesn't make any
So
sense at all.
they're, yeah, exactly. And so many business owners were going to the city and saying, I have a huge property, but only 3 employees come in,
Right.
no semis or anything. So why do they have to have hundreds added to their monthly bill? And it's just very unfair. And that's the biggest complaint.
It
It's,
seems
it's
like
just unfair.
it seems like it should be based on maybe number of vehicles or even more type of business, like if you're a trucking business or
Yeah.
use on actual roads, maybe
Yes,
perhaps.
yeah, like
Yeah.
they should look into it a little bit more in depth, but there's really like 3 categories and it's just totally messed up. There were 3 council people that voted they wanted to relook at this, but then the other 4, there were especially one was just like, oh, we'll just make modifications. Like let's just do it now and then modify later.
So did it pass
Yeah, it's
the
in.
other night?
Yeah, it's in. So actually it passed last year, and in February it was implemented.
Yeah.
But this most recent thing was to see if we want the residents to pay even a little bit, and no. And that's the councilwoman that was on I did the video on. She says no, she wants the businesses to pay everything and not the residents at all.
I heard your Instagram post. I looked at that. And the woman, I couldn't tell from the picture because it was so small who was speaking. Was it the blue-haired woman?
No, it was the one,
On the
I think she
far
was in the
right.
very center.
Okay. I couldn't see who was talking exactly.
Yeah.
But it didn't make any sense at all. She said something to the effect, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, the people that have businesses here, they're not residents. They're not the ones that elected me. Therefore, I'm not going to listen to them. My obligation is to the residents,
Yeah.
not the business owners.
Yeah. Isn't that just so like, I think what you said was she has a low IQ.
Yes.
And it's true. Like, how do you not see the relationship between the businesses and the residents?
In so many ways, not just revenue that businesses bring in, but services they provide to the residents.
Yeah. And a sense of community.
Right. That's the only way that a community can function, is to have community businesses, small businesses particularly, because usually they're local people, not always, but oftentimes, and the residents. You got to have a good working relationship there. Some
guys.
people.
Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Dwayne.
Just wanted to let
Yes.
you know Gabby's here. So
Okay.
tell me when you'd like me to drop her in.
All right. Just tell her we'll.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll give it 5 or 10 minutes at the most, and we're just going to finish up this quick conversation on South Salt Lake and what's going on. But I'd like to do a lengthier show soon about this in South Salt Lake,
Okay.
because I actually have a history there that I'd like to share. And on your Instagram post, I noticed that a lot of people were crying corruption within the government. Like, do you think that somehow the council and or the mayor or other people are going to get financial benefit out of this?
I think
somehow?
so. I do. I think there's some weird stuff going on. Like, we are only a city of 27,000 residents, and our budget is 120 million.
It's a lot for a small city.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I did skim through the budget, and I have to learn how to read it.
Okay.
So if you're interested, if you know, I would love
I
that
do
lesson.
know. I do know. Actually, I've done that as someone running for office. I've done that with the state budget, so I knew exactly where they're allocating money and all that. So it's important to know, and they're not too difficult. But
Okay. Well, what I've so I did ask ChatGPT. I put the budget, I linked
Uh-oh.
it, and I asked for it to show the red flags. And one of them was that there's a lot of different transfers happening.
Ugh.
And something I learned about the transportation tax that they just implemented is that that does not have to be used. It doesn't have to be just for the transportation. They can transfer that fund back into the general fund.
I think that oftentimes cities and even state governments, county governments do that, which I don't think is right. I mean, if they're going to allocate money or tax a certain thing, it should go to that thing.
Yeah.
In this case, it's the roads they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to tax for the roads, they should tax in the right way, which it sounds like they're not. They're taxing what if you had a 5-acre property that had a couple of horses on it and you ran a small auto parts store out of it and you had 0 trucks, no more use of the roads, but then you had a large, I think there probably is some trucking companies in South Salt Lake on the west side there.
Yeah. I'll have to share some of the complaints that the business owners had. There was one who said his taxes are $72,000 a year.
Yeah, I'd like to find out what he does and why his would be higher. Is it based on square footage of his building, how much acreage he has, or number of vehicles, which would make sense? We're using
They
the
should
roads a
take
lot.
that into consideration, and they're not.
It sounds like it. And
But Steve, we want to hear your story because that's the juicy topic.
Oh, okay.
So-
It's a long story. But we're going to do another episode on that
Oh, come
later.
on.
I'll just touch on it.
Touch on it. Yes. Yes.
Because
2 minutes.
I can't do it in 2 minutes, but I'll do it in less than 5.
Okay.
And because I really want to bring Gabby on.
Okay.
I don't want to keep her waiting because she is important and I admire her a great deal. But anyway, so a few years ago, I took what was considered a blighted part of town. It was, the police officers said it was the #1 street in all of South Salt Lake for crime. The street was called Panama Street, and I bought up all the homes and businesses on that street. And it went from Panama, which is 1 street west of Main Street, to Main, and all the buildings in between. There was like 6 homes and several businesses. That was the first project I did there. At the time, Mayor Gray was in charge, and he was, I've got to say, and the council at that time was, they understood the value of bringing new development in, new businesses in, new housing in, to an area that had drug houses on it, sundowner gang bike houses on it. And when I bought that, these places were rented out and I had to collect the rent with my pistol in my back pocket, like with my hand on it. It was that scary. In fact, later the police said, thank you for getting rid of what's going on the street. We eventually tore all the buildings down and we built what is now the residences at Central Point. I was the lead developer. I worked with the city and they actually vacated the street, Panama Street, to the city under Mayor Gray. And the culmination was a private-public partnership where we were bringing huge benefit to the city, not only cleaning up drug houses, biker houses, things like that, but offering new housing and businesses. I eventually built the building. It's 84 units, for sale condos, and then it had all ground level retail spaces, 7. I rented those retail spaces out I took one as an office for a development company. I rented a couple out to Elite Model Management, the premier model management company in the world, and Jeff Johnson Casting, who casts movies all over the world. So these are the kind of businesses that we brought in. We sold the building out. very quickly. And so I said, okay, sometimes when you go first in an area like that, it's really difficult, but it was a good time to develop. And I ended up buying 15 acres between Main and State Street from 21st South to the old D'Ambrosio, which I think is a Tesla dealership now.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of property. You've got the Tesla, the Winco, even isn't In-N-Out there right now?
In-N-Out's where the old Manny's was, the old Manny's bar, which I bought. And so we were very successful in obtaining that. And this is where it gets really complicated. There's something called a TIF. That means tax increment financing. And so it's a public-private partnership that has to meet certain criteria. So at the personal expense of several $1 million, we rezoned the entire quadrant from 21st South and Main or State all the way to I-80 and all the way to I-15 in the west. So a whole over 200-acre quadrant of the city. It had to be designated an RDA area to get what's called a TIF, tax increment financing. So you have to go to the county and get their approval because the county gets it's all based on property tax. An increment, it's tax increment financing. So you get an increment of future tax revenue. That's how it works. So, but there has to be real benefit in it, not only for the developer, but for the city as well. What are you going to do for the city that warrants them making these changes? And I could go on for 2 hours just talking about what a TIF is, but the end result is I ended up bringing in $50 million to the project through this tax increment financing. Well, during that whole process, Mayor Gray retired, and his secretary, Cherie Wood, ran for mayor. And I actually helped her campaign both financially and actually went door to door knocking for her and talking to businesses, residents, etc. But she proved to be someone that had no interest in bringing something like this into the city. From the time she came into office, she did everything she could to work against what myself and my partners were trying to do in that area. And of course, we had spent many millions of dollars acquiring the land and doing substantial architectural design. And we were also working with the Film Commission of Utah to bring the first of its kind film studio to the project site. And another thing that we had approved was the first high-rise that was going to go into South Salt Lake. The city even used my marketing firm, Infinite Scale, to rebrand everything for the city at that time. And so they used a lot of my resources, but in the end, under Cherie Wood and the new council that had come in, did everything they could to undermine our project. To this day, I don't know why. And this is the last teaser I'm going to throw out there until we move on, because again, I could talk about what actually happened and all the details of it ad nauseum, which I don't want to do right now. But long story short, the city got a hold of a piece of this project, and without any expense to him, made a deal with, of all people, Stuart Adams.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So here's where it starts to get really tricky, complicated, corrupt, and so forth. And we'll save this for another day because I could go on and on and on. And so there was a huge battle, both legal and otherwise, for several years. And in the end, it ended up being absolutely deplorable development for a variety of reasons. None of the tax increment stuff or financing was used that I brought in. And we'll go down the path of what happened with Stuart Adams another time. So there's a lot of corruption going on in the city. There was some very corrupt, perverse things going on with the fire department at the time, and a lot of other factors come into play.
Yeah, that is a whole nother story. I know about that.
Yeah.
And if anybody's curious, all you have to do is type in Google South Salt Lake news, and you can see some of that stuff. They're still reporting on,
I'll bet.
like the police department. That's a
Yeah.
big topic right now.
And if you want to check out what I was actually doing there at the time, and it's still all online, you could Google Steve Aste South Salt Lake Development. You could Google Market Station in South Salt Lake, or the residences at Central Point. You could even Google Elite Model Management and see that they were there. I mean, they're literally Elite alone to get them to come to this location. They're in New York City, Miami, Milan, Paris, London, and South Salt Lake. Okay? Cherie Wood and the council destroyed that. So we eventually lost all those good tenants. They were going to put additional millions of dollars into high-end salons, on and on and on. I mean, the story goes so deep that it's really a sore point for me, almost to the extent that I can't even drive through South Salt Lake anymore, although I happen to be sitting in South Salt Lake right now. But anyway, so that is the story there. If anybody gives a damn, that's it. So anything else about Salt Lake right now?
Yeah, anything that you know who touches, you know there's some kind of weird deals going on.
Well, I'm going to assume that you know who is Cherie Wood.
Oh, I was talking about somebody above her.
Oh, okay, Stuart Adams. I'll say it.
The big.
I think the guy's a crook. I think he's a crook. So with that, and no further ado, Gabby, I want to bring Gabby in, Dwayne, and let's talk about what she's doing, because it's very relevant right now in what's going on in our country and the world. Are you there? Bring me some coffee, man. Oh, hey.
Hi, Gabby.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, this will be a great show. We can't wait to hear your story.
Yeah, I mean, it's been we've kind of talked a little bit through Instagram over the course of the last couple of years or whatever, but you've done so much.
Yeah, I actually was on your podcast, Steve, 4 years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember it well. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot has happened in 4 years. You know, your podcast was one of the first I ever did. And I feel like when I look back at it, I was so innocent back then. I didn't know much of what was going on here in Utah. And I feel like right now, like my eyes are widely open and I have so many mixed feelings, you know, with everything that's going on here.
Oh, I'll bet. So I think we do too.
All you have to do is just research a little bit, and you go down these rabbit holes, and it's suddenly you just can put all the pieces together.
Yeah. And you can see, like, when you make new friends, you know, in the political environment, you realize which people are connected to who and how people would put their power or money over what really matters, over their own values, you know?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, we see it very much so. Don't we?
Yeah, for sure.
We're in this battle. Well, and Sarah's been the lead in it. I don't know if you know what's been going on with the Salt Lake County GOP and what happened with the 8 women.
Yes, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and as you know, and I'll say for those that don't know it, that she is the vice chair of the Salt Lake County GOP. And we've got meetings coming up, in fact, tomorrow, that we're going to try to deal with some of this stuff. And we'll see what happens. But you know what's going on as well as we do. You see corruption everywhere. And what give us a little history for those that don't know it about how you got here, when you came here, maybe just a taste of what it was like from Cuba when you moved. I know that that is a whole 6-hour podcast in and of itself, but I want to ultimately get to what you're doing now with your Youth for Liberty organization and how that came about.
Yes, so I am originally from Cuba, and as you may know, that Cuba is under a dictatorship, communist dictatorship, and the only way to live was becoming a citizen of another country. We found out that we had ancestors from Spain. I became a Spanish citizen, and once I had the Spanish passport, I was free to leave the country. My family and I first went to Spain, and then we came to the US 1.5 years later, because there was a policy that was called the dry fit, wet fit policy for Cubans. We came here with that policy. We were able to stay legally and so and so. I went to college at BYU, Idaho. That's where I met my husband, and then he got accepted into medical school here in Utah. That's where we came here. When I came to Utah, I started to see a lot of Marxism taking over. A lot of groups that started popping up in my Instagram account, that were traveling to Cuba, that were hosting meetings to teach the youth in Utah about communism and trying to implement it here in Utah and even in the US. For example, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, and so and so. And then I just started reaching out to people. I sent a bunch of emails out. I even met up with a congressman. Can I say the name?
Absolutely.
This is a free podcast.
Oh, yes.
Okay, it was with at the time it was U.S. Congressman Curtis, John Curtis. Now he's a senator. And so I met with him, and
That is
first
a
of all, yeah.
swear
So
word. That's a swear word on this show.
okay, so I brought a lot of evidence, everything that I was able to find from these groups, and brought it to him. And I showed him how they were traveling to Cuba, how they were meeting up with spies in Cuba that had actually served prison time here in the US for spying on us. And I showed him everything, and pretty much everything he cared about was how many of you are there? What's your group? How many are in your group? How many other Cubans are here? Like I felt like he cared more about how many people supported what I was bringing to him, than actually what I was showing him, right? So that's what it ended. They never searched up these groups, they never investigated them, when they obviously are connected to the dictatorship in Cuba. Because to travel to Cuba, you only can go under certain categories. One of them is education. And these groups, and also the University of Utah, is sending people under the education category, meaning that they're bringing these groups to Cuba to learn, or to gain some culture, but when they go there, they're actually learning from the dictatorship itself. They go to their meetings, the Communist Party meeting, they go meet up with the spies and everything. So there's something going on, obviously. When they do the sorry.
Who is paying for this? Like, where's the funding coming from?
That's exactly what we're trying to find out. Because yes, there are some organizations, bigger organizations, like, for example, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Some people have said that they're connected to the People's Forum, or some individuals that pay for that, but there hasn't been an actual investigation. And the Party for Socialism and Liberation has a bigger organization, it's national. So they're in every state, but there are other groups that are only from here, from Utah, like Mormons with Hope for a Better Future, like Armed Queers of Salt Lake City. Who are funding these groups? That's what we want to know. And every time they go out to protest, for example, for the No Kings protest, they were showing the Cuban flags. There were no Cubans there. The Cuban population in Utah is so little, and we pretty much know each other already, and we know who is who. There are no Cubans there. They are obviously American kids holding the Cuban flag for a purpose. So they have to be connected to the Cuban regime. But anyways,
So there was, when I was running for office, there was an event at Fitz Park on 5th East.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, right there. And it was held by the Armed Queers. And I went there. I wanted to learn. We went there, Joey and the kids, and a friend who was helping to campaign with me, and we were there to learn. And they said they felt uncomfortable, even though they have their guns and everything, and they asked us to leave. And it was like it was almost like a confrontation. It was Joey. Joey had to convince them that we are fine, like we're not there to cause problems, and to please let us stay.
So 3 adults and 2 kids,
Yeah.
and they felt threatened.
Threatened. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so I actually went to the meeting of the Party for Socialism and Liberation that they hosted about Cuba. They sent 3 people from Utah to Cuba, 3 young people from Utah. And then they came back here and they were giving like a conference or so about Cuba, about communism. And my Cuban friend and I went there. We stayed for the whole meeting. We listened to what they had to say. It was really hard to listen to that. And afterwards, when they were doing the Q&A, we stood up and we said, we're actually Cubans. And everything that you said is a lie. These are things are. And pretty much they ignore us. They were talking over us, making fun of us, like trying to say that we are like not the real Cubans or something like that because we're here. But anyways, after I found that nobody was going to do anything about these groups, I started to talk to more people and talking on podcasts and so and so. And I opened my social media, and that's how I started speaking at high schools, universities, for Utah National Guards events about what's going on here and trying to warn the students and young people to be careful with these groups. Actually, in August, I think it was, I was invited to the University of Ogden to speak. And in my presentation, I had a picture of the armed queers of Salt Lake City, the one where they had the communism symbol on top of their head, of the lady's head with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me to please remove that picture from there because it was going to offend people.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And yes, it is crazy because they think that my presentation or my concern is about them being queer when it's actually not. Like you can find queer people, gay people anywhere with any type of ideology. You know what I mean? You can find conservative gay people. That doesn't matter. What matters is that they are promoting socialism, Marxism, communism under a different name, a name that attracts the youth because they're lying to the youth. They're telling them, yes, we're gonna fight for queer people and we have guns and we're going to defend our purpose. But they're traveling to Cuba, they're going to the Communist Party conferences, and then they're coming here and they're showing the communism symbol everywhere in their social media everywhere. So it was really sad that after that, I think it was 2 or 3 months later, Charlie Kirk was assassinated by someone that allegedly was linked to this group. And I know because right after that happened, I started I always follow them. I look everything that they post on social media. They had deleted everything right after Charlie Kirk's death. We've never heard anything again from them. What happened to the group? What are they doing now? Where is the leader? So I think it's really important that we have to look into this. But anyways, long story short, I decided to start my nonprofit Youth for Liberty, where I can reach out to more people. I have already trained other 3 immigrants from Venezuela to give out presentations like the one that I do from Cuba, and so that they can share the stories with young people and teach them about the differences between socialism or communism systems and capitalism, so that they can appreciate more what they have here and love America more, because I feel like the youth is embarrassed of being American, especially here in Utah. I see so much, and for some reason when they're around me being an immigrant, they feel comfortable to share things like, I hate this country so much. They think I'm going to say it back for some reason. And they just complain about everything here in the US, and yeah, we're in America and things like that. I don't like those comments, and I think the
They
young people here need
been
to
lied to.
learn. Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to learn how good they have it here.
Another country. And
Yeah, they need to go
see it.
stay in Cuba for a while to see what it's really like, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I really admire what you've done and kind of watched you. I initially met you, I think it was at the Hispanic group headed by Martin. Yeah,
Yeah.
a few years ago. And
That's a good guy.
we've kind of stayed in touch since then, and I've watched what you've done. I'd like to go back to, because it's a special, I guess, scar on my heart about John Curtis. I just want to touch on him for a sec. So you you went to him and asked him to look into this, and ultimately he did absolutely nothing, correct?
Yeah, in fact, during the meeting, he didn't talk about the issue. He had someone that was a specialist on international relations, I guess, to speak to me. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like he didn't know about the issue or he didn't want to give his opinion. He wanted this specialist to talk for him, you know?
Right.
And everything he was interested about was how many of you are there.
He just wanted your following.
Yeah.
He wanted your following, and he wanted this. They want to start keeping tabs on you guys.
But
Where
it
you
was
are,
just
what
me.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have my own experience with him. I'll just talk about it really briefly and get back to you. But I was a state delegate when he was running for Congress. It was the term before he became a senator. And I went to one of his town hall meetings at a Big Bear Diner. And I sat right as this far away from him as I am to Sarah, and was asking him some very, very hard questions about his insider trading, why he voted to censure Trump, some of these things like that. That night, I was sitting on my sofa and I get this text message from a number I didn't recognize, and it said, "You are not to come to any more of John Curtis's town hall meetings." As a state delegate, they're saying you can't come.
It just sounds
Wow.
unconstitutional, is
It-
it?
Probably. I have a responsibility actually as a delegate to thoroughly vet every candidate, right? So I can
Yep.
make the best choice. And so the text message said, you're not to come to any more of his meetings. So I'm just thinking, well, they don't like the questions I was asking, put him on the spot because he didn't have any real answers for what I was talking about. He was not at the time in the top 5 Congress people for insider trading, making money off deals, inside information. And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Who is this?" And they said, "This is Corey. I'm his chief of staff, and you're not to come to any more meetings." And I said, "You can't tell me that." And this is all via text, and I still have the text, by the way. So it's not hearsay. I have the texts.
Wow.
And he said, "You can't come because 3 women at this meeting have accused you of sexual harassment."
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. What? And I was with Martin that day, Martin Giebitz.
Yeah.
He was with me. He was a state delegate too. So he knows. I don't even think I talked to another woman there.
That's a strange tactic that's used. I've heard that tactic being used
Yeah,
all through Utah.
probably everywhere in a lot of states. But that just shows the corrupt nature of things. You try to go through the right channels, and they threaten you with
Yeah.
things
Yes.
like that.
There's a lawsuit within some council people of Salt Lake County and a congressional candidate.
Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my experience with him, and I have hit, trying to go to people roadblocks like that, and also with what I'm trying to do with election integrity, hit those similar roadblocks with state legislators, where they give you lip service, but then when it comes time to doing anything, they won't. They won't do anything. Have you seen anything like that with what you're trying to do, other than your one experience with John Curtis?
Let's see. Not that bad. I think that has been the worst experience I've had personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And the fact, sorry.
No, go ahead. Don't let me interrupt
No,
you.
I met him first at a Republican women in meeting in Provo. That's when I met him first. I didn't know who he was. I had just moved here. He was talking a lot about the environment, and I thought that was weird because usually conservative people are not, that all in about taking care of the environment or climate
Right.
change. It was more climate change that he was talking about, and I was like, this is weird. It's not the usual. So I asked him a question. I said, what's your opinion on taking Cuba off the list of countries that sponsor terrorism, which is what the Party for Socialism and Liberation in Salt Lake City were trying to do? And your opinion on opening again relations with the the Cuban government dictatorship. And he said he didn't have an answer for me at the moment.
Yeah. He probably
So,
still doesn't.
so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of meetings, and how well are they attended by people when you've been
Um,
throwing these Saturday meetings?
yeah, so let's see, the first meeting was back in November. We did the Day of Remembrance of Victims of Communism. That was a big event. We had so many people. I think it was about 70 attendees.
Wow.
And it was very special. This is the second time that we do it, but the first time with Youth for Liberty. The first time I did it by myself with Carlos Moreno, the councilman,
Yeah.
and now I did it under Youth for Liberty. And then we had another event where we presented our organization, and we had a lot of attendance also. And the last event that we did was with the FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education. It was a great event. We had an attendance of I think it was 20 something people. I thought more
Mhm.
people were going to attend, but I understand there were more things going on that Saturday. But overall, we had a lot of people join us already, lots of young people. And what I like the most is that we have two high school students that have joined us. They are from Venezuela, and they're so passionate. They love America so much, and they have been helping in everything they can. So it makes me so happy to see that other young people are trying to get involved, and speak up.
Yeah, well, what you've done is amazing, from nothing to getting 20, 50, 70 people at your events. Keep going,
It
man.
truly is. Yeah, that
Thank
is
you.
hard to do. So amazing. Great job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Thank you
hard.
so much.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to round people up.
As candidates, we know how hard it is to get people to show up,
It is. Yeah.
even like delegates. But so where do you see it going from here? What are your plans for the immediate future?
I would love to see the youth in Utah united. All the little organizations that are here and there in the universities, and we all working together and trying to make a big movement of American loving young people. Because the Party for Socialism and Liberation is united with so many other organizations from the left, even organizations that are within the universities. Specifically, the University of Utah is so Marxist there, and they are so good at bringing people, doing protests. And I want that. I want that for us. I want our side to show up, to
Hmm.
show up for America, defend
Yeah,
our values, our freedoms. How can we let so many young people go and protest and show the pride flags together with the Cuban flag and the Palestinian flag, like all those flags together, and say no kings and we're living in a dictatorship and all these lies, and we
yeah,
are just gonna stand by and look at it. They look like there are a lot of them because they actually show up, but I'm sure that if our side shows up, we're gonna be more.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We need to show people that there is a side that opposes that, and that young people are standing for it. We need to get young people to get involved, because the oldest are going to go away. And what are we gonna have? A generation of people that are not gonna care? We cannot allow that to happen.
I agree with that. If we're not careful, that's exactly what's going to happen. What's interesting to me is these groups don't align ideologically. I mean, communism with queers with guns and Palestinians. I mean, that's an unlikely alliance, right? The the Palestinians would be the first to throw the queers off the top of the building once they're in power, right? So I don't understand why the young people, what do you think about this? Why are they aligning with ideologies that really are contrary to what they actually believe?
Well, that's Marxism. They base their fight on the classes. So, for example, in Cuba, the Marxism took over, communism took over under the fight of classes because of money. So, rich against poor. But here in the US, because we're pretty much all the same, like, yes, there are poor people and rich people, but the poor people still have food and have Nikes, and
Yeah,
and they
and
go to
cell phones.
McDonald's and buy a burger. So it's not that noticeable, and they all go to school. They can go to school. So what the new Marxism is doing is hiding under other fights of minorities, teaching the concepts of victimhood against oppressors. And that's what they're teaching our kids also.
Yeah.
If you ask around here, many kids feel like they're either victims or oppressors. If they're white, they feel guilty. Yeah, we white people were so bad. We did this and this thousands of years ago. Or if you ask another person, I've even met with children of immigrants that have been born here in the US or that have come to the US when they were very young, and they believe it. They believe that they're victims. They're going to college here in Utah. They are graduating, they have a job, and they still believe they're victims
Right.
because of the color of their skin, because of where their parents came from, maybe because they have an accent. And that's not true. That's what Marxism is doing. And that's why it's hiding under these groups with different names. They're never gonna come up to you and tell you, I'm a Marxist. Same with the Democratic Socialists of America. They're never going to admit that they're Marxists, but if you go to their website, you can see that they teach Marxism. The group of this organization here in Utah, they are teaching Marxist theory. I have seen it in their social media. They are also celebrating Fidel Castro's birthday, for example. So
Yeah.
that's the reality. That's who they are. But they're hiding under other names, other kind of movements to attract young people. Young people have it so good here in America. They have everything they need to succeed and to be happy, that I feel sometimes they need to find a purpose in life, right? And that purpose, they find it under fighting for someone else.
Yeah.
But because there's nothing to fight, they just make up something. That's what I've been noticing here. Let's
Yeah,
fight
I
for
think
immigrants' rights. We already have rights. I'm an immigrant and I have rights here, thanks to America.
I have a
That's an
question.
example.
It's about one of your posts. You were talking about Santeria and how that's like the national religion in Cuba. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So I wouldn't say it's the national, but it's definitely the main religion in Cuba. And so Marxism hates Christianity and religion overall. When Fidel Castro got into power, he prohibited religion. Nobody could get their kids baptized, nobody could go to church, they would persecute the priests, they would kill people for simply saying Christ is king, things like that. In 1997, so it took about 20 or 30 years, we were finally allowed to celebrate Christmas again. After all those years of not celebrating Christmas, people had already lost their faith. So there is something that we've been noticing, and it is that the communist dictatorship in Cuba, they don't persecute people that practice Santeria,
Hmm.
which is satanic. That's a satanic
And
religion.
are they open about like the rituals that they do?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, growing up, that's something normal. When you have a stomach ache, you go to the house of someone that has the gift to heal you, a
Now,
lady that can heal you.
educate me. Educate me. I don't know a
Yeah.
lot about that. Is that tied up in like voodooism and things like that, or
Kind of, yeah. But many times they hide it under saints from the Catholic religion.
you're
Because
right?
the backstory is that when the slaves came to Cuba from Africa, they were not allowed to practice their religion, so they hide their saints and their idols under Christian names or Catholic saints names.
Uh-huh.
But so that's what is confusing. That you're believing in God, you're believing in Christ, but then you go to somebody's house to get healed under the name of a different saint that you
Right.
never heard about. And so they do lots of rituals. I've never been to one of those, but I have friends who partook of it. And it's very gross. They make you drink from, they kill a chicken in front of you and you have to drink the blood and stuff like that and crazy
Mm,
things,
right.
right? So why doesn't the Cuban regime persecutes the people that practice Santeria? Why have they never had persecuted them? That's definitely something related to Marxism. And they want people to believe that they're free to believe in something when they're not. And they're taking Christ out of society. When you take Christ out of society, what happens? There is a society that it has no values, no morals. They have not a lead of where to go, what to think, what is right, what is wrong. They don't know. And I grew up thinking that everyone has their own truth. Everyone has their
Right.
own right and their own wrong. I grew up thinking that because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I know that there is only one truth, that Christ is the only that matters, that nothing else matters.
Everything
And
good comes from God.
everything good comes from him. And I know the importance of having religion in society, especially Christian religions, any Christian religion in society that teaches people the Christian values, not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not, all these things.
Yeah, I can't help but think of Mardi Gras. It's very similar to kind of what goes on there. Am I correct in that? Like in New Orleans, what they do under the guise of religion.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I have friends that have visited, and definitely the religion is connected to Cuba because they had a lot of slavery there.
Yeah.
So all the slaves brought their religion there from Africa. It's pretty much the same religion that they have in Cuba. The Bantu and Abaqua and don't remember the other one, but there are three main religions from Africa. They came to Louisiana, to all the southern of the US, Georgia, and also to Cuba and the islands, the
Mhm.
Caribbean islands. It's all
Yeah.
the same. And it's not good. It's not good for society.
No, it isn't. Um, Talk for a minute about what you see going on right now in Cuba with um, Trump issuing an arrest warrant for Castro, and how do you see that playing out? And how do
I think
you? I mean, they're basically cut off from the Venezuelan oil, and their economy is worse than ever right now. How do you see it currently, and what do you think might happen?
okay, so I think they are indicting Raul Castro now after I think it's been 30 years of what happened. It happened in the 90s. Do you know what happened? So
Um, Tell us.
so it was a non-profit that was called Hermanos al Rescate, Brothers to the Rescue. They were Cuban Americans. They were living in the U.S., but they had planes, and they would go to the piece of water between Florida and Cuba to rescue Cubans in the waters that
Oh
were
yeah,
trying to
they got
escape.
shot down. Yeah.
And they got shot down back in the 90s, I think 1996. And so, yeah, so that's what Raul Castro is being indicted for right now. After so many years, I believe they're doing it now because they're trying to look for something to make a change in Cuba. Of
Yeah.
course, the United States, of course, Trump is going to have interest in doing this. Nobody's going to come to Cuba to save us for nothing, for free. There has to
Right.
be an interest. That's how life works. That's how the world works. And of course, they went to Venezuela to take Maduro out to somehow benefit from their oil. Of course, nobody's going to use. No country is going to use their people, their military, their resources to go save some other country just because they're not going to do that. So, what the real interest is, of course, it is to free Cuba. Maybe they are going to select someone to be the leader for a while, like they did in Venezuela. We don't know what's going to happen. Venezuela is still developing. After so many years under the dictatorship, it is hard to just change things from one day to the other,
Sure.
especially because they only extracted one person. The rest are still there and
Yeah.
they're controlling things. And also because the people, after so many years, they have changed their minds. And it is not easy for people to readapt to capitalism, to the values that you need to have to live in a good society. And that's exactly what's going to happen in Cuba. If they get Raul Castro, they're probably going to appoint somebody to be in charge. I'm really hoping that if they appoint someone, is someone from the US or someone from the opposition that is not one of them from the dictatorship, from the Communist Party. That's what I'm really hoping for.
Right.
But even if they do that, even if they pick someone from here to take care of Cuba, it's going to take years for the Cuban people to change their mindset and to understand the real world, to know how to vote, how democracy works. Because when I was in Cuba, I didn't know what democracy was. I didn't know how elections worked. I didn't know anything about economics, politics, nothing. If
Yeah.
you asked me to vote when I was in Cuba, I would have voted for communism again, even though I hated communism, because I would have voted for free healthcare, for free education. I didn't understand, I didn't have the knowledge. And that's what could happen in Cuba if we don't have an appointed leader.
Yeah. That's where the real tough part comes in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go in and try to extract Raul, or, and then, like you said, there's still the people right under him that step in and
Yeah.
keep things status quo. I hope. I don't know what the real plan would be there.
We don't know, but
Yeah.
hopefully something is done soon. At least I'm gonna speak for the Cuban people. We would love to see justice being done because Raul Castro killed so many people from the opposition, so many good Cubans, and his brother couldn't pay for it. He died peacefully. But at least if they do something to him, at least we're gonna have some peace. You know that something was done about it.
Right.
These people, these communists have done so much evil, so much evil. They have destroyed a nation. Cuba was so prosperous before. The United States citizens used to go to Cuba to have fun, to go to the casinos, to vacation.
Oh yeah, I remember
Now it's
hearing
all
about.
the way around.
Yeah, I mean these regimes. Same with Iran. What's going on there? It was a prosperous nation. Same with Venezuela. It was
Yeah,
very prosperous, and these dictators come in and destroy it all for personal gain and power.
yeah. So whatever happens now, if Donald Trump puts someone to take care of Cuba, or if they remove Raul Castro, at least it's gonna be a change, and it's gonna be better than what we have right now. Because right now there is no hope for Cuba. There have been almost 70 years of a communist dictatorship. People don't have guns. They don't have the knowledge, like I said, to know that they can actually protest. They are scared, they are in fear. So there's not going to be a change unless someone else comes and help the people.
Right. What would, in your view, the benefit be to the Trump administration and the United States to actually go in there and extract some of the corrupt leaders like they did Maduro?
I think
And
Cuba's in a. Sorry, go ahead.
well, it's clear to me that we did it in Venezuela for the oil. And I believe that the long term plan literally has to do with China, to include what they're doing in Iran. It's not so much about Iran as it is China and cutting off their main oil suppliers. What does Cuba have that, say, Venezuela and Iran have, i.e., oil, that would benefit the US economically in that way?
I think Cuba is in a very good geographic, strategic position. And actually, the Chinese, the Russians, they spy the US from there. They are so close to the US. They have equipments, they have treaties with the Cuban government, and they work together. So if the US takes over Cuba, then it's gonna be, that point that they have, the communists have, is gonna be gone.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I think this is just my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that Trump has many Cuban friends, powerful Cuban friends here in the US. I
Like
watched
Marco Rubio.
like Marco Rubio, or maybe more powerful than Rubio, maybe like millionaires, millionaire Cubans.
Yeah.
And so I remember watching a clip from one of Donald Trump's speeches back in 2000, and he was speaking about his friends and about these Cuban people that he admired. So what I'm thinking is that he's gonna try, because this is his last term, to do a favor to help these people. If the Cuban American millionaires are able to go to Cuba and start businesses and invest there, that's gonna be good for the U.S. too.
Tourism would be great.
Tourism will be great. Cuba has great beaches and great places to visit. So,
Right.
and also, this is just my opinion. I believe that the day that the dictatorship in Cuba fails, communism is going to start dying in the U.S. The Cuban regime is the longest dictatorship in our continent, in the whole hemisphere. And they have infiltrated people in Venezuela, Nicaragua, Peru, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, and of course in the US too.
Yeah.
They were able to destabilize the government in Venezuela and do an overturn and implant socialism there. Same thing with Nicaragua, Peru, and Bolivia. So once they die completely, there's not going to be a head for communism. It's gonna be gone, and
I
it's
pray
going to
that you're
start
right.
slowly die here.
Yeah, I really hope that you're right about that. The world is upside down in so many ways right now, but the youth being miseducated, or if that's even a word, indoctrinated with these ideas of Marxism and coupling these odd ideologies together. And you spoke of it a little bit about the youth. They're actually a desperate youth. They don't know where to turn. They don't know how to direct their lives, and so they follow these kind of ideologies because it seemingly gives them purpose, but it's the wrong purpose, clearly, right?
Definitely. How I wish I had been born here in this beautiful country. Life would have been so much easier. You're just born here and you have a future in your mind. You can dream about what you want to be when you grow up. Most of the times you have your parents to support you during your childhood and buy you something for Christmas or go somewhere pretty, get a soda, eat something delicious that you enjoy eating,
Yeah.
going to the bathroom and having toilet paper. Yes, life is so easy here.
Yeah. Things we take
And
for granted.
yeah, and in my case, I came to this country when I was 19 already. I feel like I wish so bad that I could have come here when I was younger,
Well,
so that I
Gabby,
could have gone to high school and have a prom and
you
dream
know
about my
what?
future.
I'm glad that you weren't born here because you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now if you
That's
were.
true.
That's true.
Because of the hardships that you experienced is why you're doing what you're doing.
Because it's so easy here, it makes a lot of people entitled.
It does. That's a lot of the problem that we're having with the youth is the entitlement.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I thank God that you were born there and that you're doing what you are doing here now.
Yeah.
We want to have you back on. I know that we've been going about an hour on our shows so far, and really appreciate you coming on. And there was a couple other things we were going to talk about. There's an upcoming meeting tomorrow that we wanted to touch on. But can we have you back?
Yeah, I would love to.
As
Thank
we get
you.
better at what we're doing, as we become more knowledgeable, and
You're doing great.
I think I can speak for Sarah in saying we just want to do our little part, like you're doing, to make a
Yes.
difference.
It's
And-
important.
and
Everything you're doing
collectively-
is important. And I love your reels when you go to people's house and you ask about who voted. That's so good. So important to do. I love it.
And we, to our shame, we've kind of gotten away from it because Sarah's heavily involved with the party here in Salt Lake County and has a lot of responsibilities. I ended up running for office, which took me away from doing that.
Yeah. And the best day to go door knock is on Saturday. So there's like a limited number of times.
Yeah.
We could do
Yeah,
this.
like it's hard to get people to answer their door as it is. And if we were to go, we both work too, so we can't
Yeah.
go in the middle of the day.
No.
Gabby, we would like to support you in however we can. So
Absolutely.
if you ever have any ideas or any collaborations, we'd love to be a part.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, and keep
I appreciate
sending me those little messages of the upcoming events so I can keep sending those
Same.
out. And I'm going to come to the next one. It's just like every Saturday has been like,
There's a lot going on.
there really is. But what you're doing is so important, and we're very grateful that you're doing it.
I'm glad I can do it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And may God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.
God bless you too. Thank you
Okay.
again.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, Dwayne, that was excellent conversation. What do you think? Are you there with us? Anyway,
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you very much for bringing her on. That was great.
Isn't she great?
Well, I remember her from before.
I know, but she's just gotten even better. I mean,
I can't believe it was 4 years ago, but that makes sense.
I don't know. That somehow doesn't seem right. Maybe
I know.
2.
Just fly.
Oh my God.
2 years.
It does.
I think it was 2. Well, man.
I mean, you haven't been doing
All right.
this channel for 4 years, have you?
2 years.
Anyway.
So it was
Yeah.
it was
probably a
back when
couple
you were
years.
doing when you had your when you had your podcast with Roy. So
Yes. I have a much, much, much better partner now. Yeah.
don't tell Roy.
Anyway, we love Roy.
All right, I'll let you guys
We
carry
love you,
on.
Roy, most of the time.
Okay.
So this weekend, we need precinct chairs to show up at the meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, right?
Credentialing starts at 9.
At 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
To voice your opinion about what's been going on within the Salt Lake County GOP relative to the grade 8 women that were expelled from their party positions in Salt Lake County. And it's my belief, I'm not going to speak for Sarah. Sarah's has her own very well-founded opinions about these things, but this seems to be an unjust trial that took place. And we want the chairs to be able to have an educated voice in what actually happened. Should we really allow party leadership to arbitrarily, without proper investigation and procedure, to just eliminate people from their party positions? That's not right, in my view. And we need to speak up about that. And tomorrow's our opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out something that might be swaying somebody to believe a certain way. So the issue with the 8, they sent a letter to the city prosecutors, and what the leadership of the Salt Lake County GOP is saying is that, okay, this is bad, you shouldn't do that, therefore they're expelled, agree with us.
Mhm.
But what's the main point is that there's 2 things going on here. They did something, they sent a letter to the city prosecutors, and then the other one is how that was handled.
Right.
And so you can agree with the leadership or Mike Carey that they shouldn't have done this, but you can also agree with the 8 that it was not handled properly.
Right. In many ways. Can you explain how it wasn't handled properly?
To me, the biggest things are there was no due process.
Right.
And the next is that there was no quorum at the time of the hearing or the trial.
So basically, and I'm going to say, there's 23 members total. Out of that, a certain percentage have to be met to constitute a quorum. And they were short of that. And they made a decision when they should not have even had a meeting because they did not have enough of the people there.
Yeah.
So irrespective of the charges themselves, they were not given due process, and they did not have authority to even hold the meeting and make a decision because not enough of the members were present to do so. So they're violating the bylaws of the GOP in doing what they did. And that is what's going to be at issue tomorrow, not whether what these 8 women did and letters they sent, etc.
Yeah. And tomorrow they're going to try to say that because they did this, it's bad, and therefore vote with us in keeping it how the discipline was acted.
Right.
Or pushed. So tomorrow they're going to just really try to blend those 2 together and say, okay, this is bad, right? And then they're going to say, yeah, but we really need to acknowledge that there's 2 separate things.
Exactly.
What they did, and then the disciplinary action. So
right.
Yes, please really just look at both issues separately.
Absolutely. Let's make sure we're voting on the right thing tomorrow, which is.
And don't get caught up in all the commotion and the chaos that is going to happen.
Right. He said, she said, they did this, they did that. That doesn't matter. They should not have had a meeting.
Yeah.
Period.
I feel like that there's going to be a lot of push for like an emotional thing,
Right.
like, oh, like trying to make you feel a certain way rather than look at the facts. How can we say that better?
Well, they want to appeal to the emotions, like you said, of people and take the focus off what's really at issue tomorrow. And for me, this is what dictatorships do. This is what communism is. They make decisions that are outside their purview or rights as elected officials. And that's exactly what they did. Maybe the details of the actual charges could be brought out at another time, but they are not to make a decision without all the people that are supposed to be there. It's that simple. We can't have people running around willy-nilly at their own discretion, wielding power and authority that they do not have. And that's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
And it didn't stop there. There's other cases where they were trying to block certain people from gaining access to information because of certain posts they made on Facebook. So because of that, they're going to block their, and this is a candidate that expressed views on Facebook that they shut down to him because of his opinions. This is a free country. It's a First Amendment right, and we can't have our party leadership just cutting that off at their own discretion without the proper mechanisms being in place. And that's what happened. So try to keep that in mind, that authority is being wielded that's not there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because in our bylaws, so first of all, the bylaws, they are a binding contract between the member and the organizations. And even the courts, they recognize that. These are not just some recommendations that we're supposed to follow. It's a binding contract. It's like a legal document.
Right.
And it's just important to follow those.
Sarah, can you explain, okay, so we bring in a parliamentarian to basically interpret what the bylaws actually say, what the intent of it was, what it really means. So in this case, Mike Carey brought in a parliamentarian that is quite biased, I think, and that person is going to be there tomorrow, and has a history of making very one-sided party politics, partisan decisions, not based on actual fact, but misinterpretation to their advantage of the bylaws. And so how do you think that's going to play a role tomorrow? Because every time something's brought up, he's going to refer to this parliamentarian who's going to interpret it the way they've already predetermined.
Yeah,
that it
there's
should
for
be.
sure. There's definitely a plan.
Yeah, there's going to be a bias with him. Let's say the larger group that oppose a dictatorship kind of approach to this, have also talked to other parliamentarians that have a totally different view of what is actually happening, and they interpret it much different than the person that's going to be there tomorrow is going to interpret it in favor of Mike Carey. And so that needs to be kept in mind as well. If he keeps referring to this other person that's supposed to be an expert in the bylaws, keep in mind that that's his opinion based on biases that their conversations prior to this meeting they've had, and they have a plan on what they're going to say to every question, when the reality is that their opinion is limited and not necessarily right.
Yeah. So here's a good analogy, is that we could see this happening in the legislature, like with interpretations or like changing the law or whatever to get something passed.
Right.
And so I think that's like, to say that the party, oh, they wouldn't do it. Well, the Republicans in even higher than them are doing it.
Yeah. So I hope that we get a good turnout. I hope that a few of you are listening here. I hope that if you know other precinct chairs and they may not be listening, reach out to them and have them really pay attention to what's going on here. And I think we can get a good result and have true democracy take place tomorrow.
And just the closing statement, again, I want to reiterate that you can believe that these 8 did something wrong, but you can also believe that the process was not handled correctly.
Exactly
So
right.
important.
That's what's at the core of this. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Hopefully we get a lot of you. Hopefully we'll get better at this. I think we will. I'm really grateful to have Gabby on today. She did
She's
a
amazing.
magnificent job. I want to have her on again
Yeah.
soon because she has a lot of knowledge.
You know, if we got her in front of some high school students,
Mhm.
they would, I think, really listen to her.
I
No matter
agree.
what side they're on politically.
Right.
Yeah, she's
She mentioned that she felt that the people she got in the front of, the kids, they thought that she would have a totally different view of it than they had expected. So it'd be not. I bet most immigrants have a similar view that, wow, we came from complete poverty and horrible situations to a country that's free, and we need to embrace that and teach that here more and more. So
yeah, she's somebody that, like, so you know how there's like influencers that could only appeal to the certain side.
Yeah.
Like, so I think I do that a lot of times. I only appeal to like the more conservative people, and then the
Yeah.
Democrats just like don't even want to listen to me. But her and her story, I
Yeah.
think she could appeal to like such a broad range of
yeah,
people.
it's nonpartisan. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, they think it's partisan. Like if we go talk to somebody out in the library right now, but yeah, if we could just get them in front of her, then
I agree with you. We should do like a man on the street thing and get their opinion. I've always wanted to do that. Man on the street or woman on the street.
yeah. Okay, it's on our to-do list.
Yeah, because I know when I'm looking at social media, that those kind of things really attract me.
Mhm.
If I see somebody asking questions and they're really quite ignorant of the actual facts, and there's so many people out there that are ignorant. Well, with that, we want to thank you again. Thank you, Dwayne, for being a good man behind the scenes and pushing the right buttons and all that. And I think you did. And so we will sign off and say goodbye.
You guys had a great show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dwayne.